Restart, reboot, 2.0. 2.0. I think I'm going to definitely come back again this evening too. And try another stream in the evening. The morning is way more hit or miss. Seems like anyway. Of course, there's always the possibility it's just me and nobody wants to hear my shit. Request in. TikTok start pushing the air again, hopefully. Totally stalled on me. Some good old H2O. Oh man, that's good. Alright. Hopefully TikTok won't let me down this time and stall us out. So come on in, Christians, and let's have a talk about Jesus not being who the Christians think he is, or the Old Testament for sure. Don't think Jesus is nobody. Doesn't seem so anyway. I got some new arguments Jesus is a phony that I would like to run on some biblical folks. Pretty fun one too. Covers a couple bases. So, actually, yeah, we'll just start on that one this time. How about that? So, let's start on my new argument that Jesus is a phony. And it begins in Matthew. Matthew 21 says, when Jesus rides the donkey into Jerusalem, that he's fulfilling a prophecy. Matthew uses those words, and it says, this happened to fulfill the words spoken by the prophet. Yes. Yes. What Matthew says, chapter 21. And that prophecy that he's referring to is Zechariah 9:9. I don't know if anybody's ever read Zechariah 9:9, but it is an actual messianic prophecy from the Old Testament. And it's talk about a coming king. So if anybody wants to argue about coming kings and whether or not this is Jesus, this is the show for you. You can get on the popular ones that have 500,000 people watching. I'm still brand new at this. So I don't have a huge audience, which means if you want to talk, you don't have to wait around for an hour and a half and listen to somebody else talk first. I'm wide open at the moment. So jump on in and let's discuss Jesus being a phony, because I'm pretty sure that's what he is, and I can make a pretty good argument, I think, based on the Bible here, that a whole lot ain't adding up about what this is saying about Jesus, especially in the New or Old Testament, I mean. And for example, I was using on my last live here, Christians would have to believe that a Messiah came and died for their sins. Yeah, Christians, Messiah died for your sins. But here, when the new covenant is formed in the Old Testament, which is at the end of the Babylonian captivity, it clearly says that when this happens, all shall die for their own sins. You want to read it? It's verse 29, Jeremiah chapter 31. It says, in those days they shall no longer say, the parents have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth have been set on edge. But all shall die for their own sins. The teeth of the one who eats sour grapes shall be set on edge. Maybe that's why they quit pumping me out last time. I keep saying D-I-E instead of unalive. I think I'm supposed to say unalive here. Maybe that's why I got stampled out the last couple times. I keep forgetting to say that. You get to reading. It's easy to say words you ain't supposed to be saying on TikTok from the Bible. Crazy, huh? Anyway. So, I don't know who out there's read Jeremiah. Just talking, Pastor J. is talking of 70 AD, the fall of the temple. What's talking about 70 AD, the fall of the temple? Nothing I read is. Just now, anyway. So, what do you mean there, Pastor? Why don't you come up? Let's talk, man. I ain't trying to holler and call nobody names. I can show you. We'll just read it, and I'll show you all what I mean exactly. Prediction of unaliving Ben future. I think you had a typo there. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Prediction of unaliving future. Unaliving future. Retype that, Pastor. I don't know what you mean there. I'm getting filtered comments. Did you say a bad word, someone? It filtered your comment for saying you're on a Zoom. What's up with that? Is TikTok really that big of sissies? Man, I don't understand that. I don't know what you mean. They're unaliving. Like Matthew, I mean, that's a different part. Oh, you mean in Jeremiah? I think that's what you mean anyway. Yeah, that's not what it says though. So, the individual retribution part I just read, I'm assuming. I mean, Matthew says this is the prophecy being fulfilled, or it's the chapter that the prophecy's in that Matthew is saying being fulfilled when Herod is unaliving all the babies in and around Jerusalem that are male and under 2 years old. But I mean, we can just read the next line. That's clearly not what it's talking about here, even though that's Matthew again saying that's a prophecy. So I mean, I don't understand where you're talking about the fall of the temple. That hasn't come into play in anything I've read so far. But we can get into that. We can go to Matthew. That's chapter 24. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, give me an exact scripture and verse again. Okay, so let me start at the beginning here. Matthew chapter 21. We don't have to read that one unless you just want to. I will. But Matthew chapter 21 is saying, when Jesus rides the donkey into Jerusalem, this is a prophecy that's being fulfilled. He fulfilled it, past tense. So, if you go to Zechariah, the actual prophecy that Matthew is quoting as fulfilled here is Zechariah 9:9. That's the coming king of God's people. And I got off of it somehow. Oh, no, I didn't. Yes, I did. Anyway, let's read it real quick. It basically says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." Matthew actually says that, translated that somehow or another as two donkeys. And in Matthew it says when Jesus sat on the, sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Jesus sat on the donkey, it says he sat on them. There's a donkey and a colt. So Matthew is actually saying Jesus sat on them and rode into Jerusalem. He's saying there's two of them, which is crazy, because that's not what this is. But anyway, the king is going to ride a donkey into Jerusalem. It says, "He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth." So the actual prophecy in Zechariah 9 here is saying that a literal king of Jerusalem, a ruler in Jerusalem, is going to enter it on a donkey, and then he is going to command peace to the nations. And I'm assuming that's got to mean, when it says the nations, it just means the nations, not most of them or any of that. Anyway, the important part to remember here is the king rides the donkey into Jerusalem and commands peace to the nations. Those are the two real important parts that makes the difference to this specific argument. Now, we're jumping to Luke 19. And in Luke 19, it's clearly saying this prophecy not only didn't happen, but it's saying Jesus thought that this prophecy was about to happen and God's kingdom was going to come immediately. And we'll read that in just a second. But it clearly doesn't happen because it ends with Jesus crying and blaming all the people for this prophecy not coming to pass. So listen here. In Luke chapter 19, the context of the story is that, like I said, we can read it if you want, but I don't think it's totally necessary, especially if you already know Luke 19 pretty good. But anyway, at the very start of it, Jesus is passing through Jericho, and that's when he talks to the little short tax collector, Zacchaeus here. And he's chilling with Zacchaeus at his house, I'm assuming, and he's talking to them and the disciples. So then he goes on to tell the parable of the 10 minas. And in this parable, it tells you, before it starts the actual parable, it says why Jesus is about to tell this parable. Let's read it. It says, now as they heard these things, he spoke another parable. Who speaks the parables? Jesus. And it says, because he was near Jerusalem, and because they thought the kingdom of God was to come immediately. That's real important there. Jesus is telling this parable because, according to the scripture, he was near Jerusalem, and because they thought the kingdom of God would appear immediately. Now, as far as I know, there's not multiple interpretations for the word immediately. Immediately means right now, right this second, imminent, happening, whatever. Anyway, so Jesus literally has in his mind, according to this, and the disciples also have in their mind, because Jesus is their teacher, so whatever he teaches them, they believe, obviously, that they're in Jericho right now, on the way to Jerusalem, to grab the donkey and to fulfill this prophecy. So, I got somebody up in here. So Jesus is fulfilling this prophecy. Let me see who's what we got here, and then we'll jump back into that if you like, Pastor. Crap. Let me get a little. What we got here? Spirits.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man? You over 18?
Yeah,
Cool. Are you a Christian?
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. You got a question about or something to say
I
about
was just
the?
gonna say that. I was just gonna say that for a kingdom requires a city.
Yeah, Jerusalem.
All kingdoms in history have had a city.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, it says here it's Jerusalem.
Democracy. Yeah. So, it's just about, New Jerusalem. You ever heard of New Jerusalem?
Yeah,
Yep.
but where does that say that here though?
It wasn't. You said that it didn't appear.
Yeah, don't. We can read that part if you want.
Yeah, it will appear 7.5 years after the rapture.
Yeah, that's like a revelation thing. I'm just sticking to this right now though. So did
Well,
you hear
I was
what
just
I was talking
saying,
about in Zechariah and stuff?
yeah, that stuff is a lot, but I was just saying, for if you think about the word kingdom, it's always like every king has a city, not a country. It's like a city. You know what I'm saying? If you
Yeah.
think about it, like Rome's a city, like Egypt's a city. Or no, hold up. I think that
Egypt's a
there
country, but yeah.
nah, there's like a city or something. It's like a
Well,
city.
I don't know what you're trying to get to there, but so
The
this
word, just
here,
the word kingdom is all
Jerusalem
I
is a
was trying.
literal place that Jesus is about to ride into, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It does,
Okay,
obviously. I
so
mean,
that's what this prophecy is about. Like in the Old Testament, this is a
tell me the
literal
prophecy
ruler
again.
of a literal place.
Can you
The
say?
prophecy is
I,
from Zechariah. Yeah, I've got it memorized. I've read it a million
I
times,
came in
dude.
here like after you like just like barely when you said kingdom. I just wanted to say kingdom means. But can you read the prophecy?
You
I didn't
mean
hear the
the actual
prophecy.
prophecy that's being fulfilled?
Yeah, I didn't get in here and hear the whole thing. I heard
Oh,
about the
okay. Yeah,
last
no, no.
25%.
Yeah, let's read it. So I started off by saying that in Matthew, that tells the story of Jesus riding the donkeys into Jerusalem as the king, is a prophecy literally being fulfilled. Matthew
Where does it
says that
say
verbatim.
donkeys?
In Matthew, not in Luke. In Matthew, it says donkeys. It says they placed Jesus on them, the donkeys. So Matthew thinks there's two donkeys involved here, but Luke don't. Luke says they sat him on the donkey.
And what verse is that in Matthew?
It's in chapter 21. Actually, don't
Let
have
me
that.
look
Here,
real
let me pull it up.
quick before we proceed.
That's literally the only one I don't have pulled up here because usually people just say, "Yeah, that's right." We move on.
Well, that could be like a false claim. That would be the
Yeah, that's right
basis,
here
the
at the start.
thesis. So
Okay,
that
so
says
listen, it
it says in
says
what verse in 21?
Matthew starts off in verse 1 telling this story. It says, when they had come near to Jerusalem and had reached Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two disciples, saying to them, go into the village ahead of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this: the Lord needs them, and he will send them here immediately. This took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet. Tell the daughter of Zion, look, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. But it don't actually say that. That's why Matthew was saying there's two donkeys here, because he read the prophecy wrong. Luke didn't know. But Matthew is saying this is fulfilled, a fulfilled prophecy.
Your king is coming to you humble mounted on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey.
Right, so
The
in Matthew,
disciples
Jesus
went.
is riding two different animals at once.
What does foal mean? Is that like male female thing? What's a colt? Is
It's
that
like
like
a
a male
baby small
donkey?
donkey. A baby small donkey. See, in
What's a
Zechariah,
colt?
it's saying he's riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey, like a baby donkey, basically. Like a colt is a baby horse. And a horse or donkey's whatever, it's just a baby donkey. But Matthew somehow or another read that as Jesus is riding two animals at once into Jerusalem. But Luke don't say that.
And what does Luke say he's riding? The donkey
It
or the
says a
colt?
donkey.
So
Well, it's
Luke
both.
says
It's
he's
saying
riding the donkey.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
it
they
says a
says,
donkey,
like, Matthew's
a
literally
colt.
saying the disciples placed Jesus on them to ride. Luke
And hold
says
on.
they placed it on
What's a
it to
colt? Is a
ride.
colt a male donkey?
It might be, to my understanding,
Like,
it's just a
but you
baby
said
donkey,
the foal
basically.
is the kid, right?
A young donkey. A young
So
donkey.
so in Luke it says he's riding on the donkey. He's obvious. It says it doesn't say he's riding on both of them.
Well, Matthew does, and Luke it doesn't. Luke corrects a lot of the mistakes that Matthew makes. And Matthew makes a lot of mistakes. But anyway, the donkey's beside the point here. I mean,
No, I'm
the
trying to hold on. Let me look at this. Hold on for a sec.
yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead and look. And then we'll read the actual prophecy from Zechariah if you will.
I mean, I've seen depictions of him like on a donkey with like a colt beside him.
Well, I mean, how do you ride two donkeys at once? Is he like planked across them? Or is he
Yeah.
like got them stacked on top of each other and like he's the top of the pyramid like cheerleaders? Like,
There's another place where he tied it up. They tied one up. They went somewhere when they went to the Last Supper house.
well, that may have been a different one. This is a specific moment that there's supposed to be a specific prophecy being fulfilled, though. According to Matthew, this is fulfilled in Jesus. But in Luke, it's telling a very different story about what's happening. And the actual prophecy, neither one of them are getting it right. Like, Jesus did not fulfill this prophecy from Zechariah 9.
What does the one in Zechariah say?
Uh, we don't have to read the whole thing. The important part is the very start of it. And it says, the coming ruler of God's people. It says, rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off. He shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth. So do you get what that's saying there pretty plainly?
That's just weird. It says a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey.
Yeah, it's just saying he's riding a donkey, but it's a foal, a colt.
Wait,
foal of a donkey.
it says he rides
It's a
both.
young donkey.
It said he rides both in that prophecy, right?
No, not in Zechariah. It's saying he's riding
What
on a
does it say
donkey.
in Zechariah?
A colt, the foal of a donkey.
Read it. Read that part though. Can you read that one sentence again?
Yeah,
Where it says he rides it?
humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey.
Is a colt
It's just
a
deeper
donkey?
describing the donkey. Yeah.
Riding on a donkey.
Yeah, it's the same animal. It's just saying it's
Cool.
a young donkey. And the king's riding, for whatever reason, this king has to ride a young little donkey. And it also says after that he will cut off the chariot from the Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem. That's saying he's going to end all war in Jerusalem, right? And let me I think that's the pastor here. Let me bring him up if I can too. Pastor, you there?
Hey, brother, how's it going?
It's going great, man. Are you a real pastor?
I am. I pastor a church up here in New York.
Yay! Amazing.
Where's the one in Zechariah? What verse is it? Before the pastor talks?
Zechariah 9. It's in verse 9 that he talks about the donkey, and then in 10
I'll find
it
it.
says he's
All right,
going to
I got
command
it
peace
in
to
the
the
footer.
nations.
I got it. All right, my bad.
So these are all good observations. Glad to talk through. Where would you want to start?
Uh,
Go ahead.
you're caught up where I'm at. Like Matthew says, he rides the donkeys. We just
Yeah,
read
so what's the-
Zechariah.
Do you have any info, Pastor?
Yeah, so I mean, when we look at the different accounts of the Gospels, so some of the things that we have to take into consideration are these are also two perspectives from different humans, right? So Matthew was an alleged eyewitness versus Luke, who was some years later as a companion of the Apostle Paul. So.
Traditionally, yeah.
Traditionally, yeah, that's what I mean. So,
Luke wasn't a disciple?
well, Luke, he was. Well, it depends on how you define disciple, right? So Luke wasn't
Like one of the 12, I mean.
He
Just one of
wasn't
the
one of
12.
the original 12. Actually, Luke and Mark.
I've
fall in
heard that.
category. Yeah, they traveled along with Paul in that first century post resurrection.
I thought he was a physician, though, and Jesus said something to him when he was living.
Yeah. So he was a physician and a historian. So he was in and around that time, but came very active in ministry. And again, according to the historical record, according to biblical record. So you will often see. Think about if we were all in if we were all in a vehicle. And we had to get taken down for questioning, right? We're all in different rooms. We're going to give a different perspective. Or we all went to a concert. We are going to focus on different things, and any account would allow for some standard, variation, right? And as far as the colt versus the donkey, it was an unbroken donkey, so it's plausible that if they were both tied up, that the mother donkey would have been taken along. I agree. You can't ride both of them. So that's but we have to look
No, it's
also.
pretty
I mean,
insane.
you literally could ride both of them.
Well,
Though.
you
You could just hop on one and ride
I'm
one
gonna-
5
I'm
feet.
gonna ask AI
Then when it
to-
gets tired, you go to the other one.
Well, that is true, but I'm going to ask AI to.
But which one did he
But it
ride
says he
into
sat
the city?
Jesus on them. He sat. It says,
Yeah, but
it
so
says-
I would have to dive into the original language. Don't forget, this is all translated in Koine Greek as well, and sometimes
Well, yeah, we all know all that.
the translations are not fantastic, right? I can give you multiple
So,
things.
Pastor, let me ask you before we move on here. So,
Sure.
you don't hold the position that this is like no contradictions or anything like that.
So I believe that you have to look at things in proper context, and I also believe that in the Bible there are prescriptions and descriptions, and let me explain what that is. So when you look at some of the Old Testament stuff, and you're like, "This is horrific," you have a lot of it is recording what happened, and I'm also a big believer there being an arc of understanding, right? So uh, when you look at how some of the early prophetic predictions were that there was going to be this big conqueror of a king that would come and free them. Jesus came and flipped the script on all that stuff. As a matter of fact, the big reason why he was unalived was, well, one big part of it is they wanted a king like David to help free them from Rome. And when Jesus came and talked about a spiritual kingdom and a spiritual awakening, that was detestful. I mean, the religious leaders wanted a political win. So
Well, that's
that was
because that's what the Old Testament promises them. It didn't promise them a guy who's not going to come and fight anybody.
So I can only come to you from my perspective, and I do think that there's good proof behind what I'm saying. A lot of what you read in the Old Testament is because they didn't quite understand they didn't understand the implications. As a matter of fact, when Jesus
The
comes on the
prophets
scene,
didn't understand. Is
well,
that what you're
well,
saying?
well, they imagine seeing through a lens that's dimly lit, right? So, where you can see a partial and you relief, and some of the things that they release about freedom, their concept of freedom is political freedom. But what Christ came to do is to free us all spiritually, right? So that we can, if again properly applied, we could love each other as our neighbor, and then a lot of the world's problems go away. Forget what the church does, because the church screws a lot of stuff up. If we would just go by the letter as far as the way Jesus instructed us and lived his life, the world would be a better place, right? So you have to understand, in that first century, the Romans had a very, very tight grip on Jerusalem, and the reason why I brought up, some of the cataclysm, like destruction leading to the temple, was because ultimately in 70 A.D. what happened was the Rome came down and destroyed that temple, which from my perspective was a judgment upon. I mean, we don't have to get that far in eschatology.
And donkeys have crosses on their backs.
Do they? I'm,
Yeah. It's a genetic
I guess
mutation
so.
that occurred around 2000
I have
years
chickens.
ago.
I don't have
Well,
donkeys.
anyway,
so-
I got
No, I
both
mean, like,
of you.
do you know
Let's address the
apostate?
actual context here.
Sure.
What?
But y'all know that, right?
No, I did not know that.
Have y'all ever seen that?
Well, sure, but the Old Testament says animals get their stripes and speckles because they had sex in front of striped poles. Do you think that's true?
Yeah,
I'm-
that could be
Anyway,
true.
that's
I'll
no,
have
it
to look that
couldn't.
up. That's not. I've never taught that on a
Hold
Sunday.
on,
I gotta be
let's
honest
get
with you.
back to the actual story here. Like,
Go ahead,
let's
go
jump
ahead.
into the actual context of
Hey,
what's
I
happening.
just want
in
to
the
say at the
context
outset
of
here,
this.
I appreciate the conversation that we can have. Obviously we have differing views, but I do believe wholeheartedly that we should be able to discuss respectfully. So I appreciate in the manner in which you're running your lives, man.
Oh, same. I mean, I think very highly of humans. I just don't think very highly of this religion, unfortunately. So I
Hey,
mean, I try to talk to
apostate
people
though,
like
you
that. I mean,
you
I
know,
care.
you seen that though, where donkeys have crosses on the back?
I think I know what you're talking about, like a blackie.
I've seen
looking
it in
stripe.
real life, like on a donkey. It's kind of weird. Some donkeys have it, so it's like a mutation.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've ridden a donkey before. You could call me the Messiah if you wanted to.
No, I'm saying some donkeys don't have it. It's weird, but the
Oh, well,
thing
maybe
about
not.
the animals, if you put up that I believe that. Y'all don't think that
Uh,
cows or whatever could have speckles if you put a speckled thing when they were mating?
no, that's all genetic, man. That's
Yeah, I know, but the
I
eyes
don't know
are
where the Bible
genetic.
got that from. That's says
Well, let's
Jacob.
get back to this thing.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Go-
Anyway, so
Like,
let's address the
what is it?
actual context of what's happening here.
Sure.
So the important part of Zechariah 9:9, this actual prophecy about the coming king says, when this king comes, he's going to enter Jerusalem on a donkey and command peace to the nations from a worldwide empire, an empire that stretches from the river to the sea to the ends of the earth, right?
Right.
That's the actual words of the prophecy. And I think we can all agree that's pretty clear. So anyway,
Well, that's
at the start
Zion.
of
Zion is analogous to New Jerusalem, not Old Jerusalem, right?
So
well, it's
so
the same
let
place
me
or
let me open
whatever.
up
No, I
Zechariah
think
9.
Zion is a different than current Jerusalem. It's the
Well,
mountain on a
Zion's
hill.
more of a general area around it. Jerusalem's a city, and then Ephraim's like the territories as well. Some of these words mean different things, even though it's the same word. But in
Well,
Zechariah, it's
it
talking about
says that the
Jerusalem.
mountains will be lifted like higher than Mount Everest when the earthquakes happen, when he returns. But that's whatever. I mean, whatever. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's
what's
a
this
different part.
about the
Let's just
donkeys?
address this
Like,
part for
this is
now.
pretty cool.
So go
All
ahead,
right.
Pastor. I was
No,
listening.
no. Go ahead. So I'm trying to understand your question. Are you talking about peace as far as complete
Yeah,
peace
yeah, the
to?
actual prophecy, if you read
The
Zechariah
donkeys.
9:9, it says he will cut the donkeys are kind of irrelevant. Let's just he just wrote a donkey. That's the important part. But anyway, it says he will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. This is there's more to this prophecy, but this is the important part, or what's going to be
Well, you
important
don't believe he
in my
rode in on a
argument here.
donkey, right?
I actually do think he rode into a donkey. Of the very
Well,
few
again,
historical
and the
things,
donkey
But
does
you don't
have.
think it was fulfilled, right?
no, and it even says that in Luke. We'll get to that. Yeah, yeah.
So the donkey is significant. Not to stay with the donkey, but it's significant because in times of peace, the a king would ride in on a donkey, and that would be a sign that they were at peace. Versus times of
Exactly. That's the prophecy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So in times of war, a king would come in. So again, this really flies in the face of what the crowd wanted and expected. When I say the crowd, I'm talking about the religious leaders. Obviously, the people there are crying out, "Save us, save us!" But I would say this language is very much covenantal language, right?
Hey, I got it. Hey, I figured it out though. Can I say it?
Go ahead, brother.
Colt, dude, dude, this is so
Just
I don't know what I
funny.
thought you
You're
was
gonna
going to
change
say,
this
but I don't
up to
think
But
it's
Donkey
going to
Kong?
take
for
the
real, I
concept.
just got a little bit of understanding on
We have
this.
got to get
It
past
was
this
what the
cult,
pastor
man.
was saying, dude. So, this,
I hear you. Okay,
the
okay, I'll go
prophecy in
there.
Zechariah, right? It says he'll ride in on a colt, on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey, right? Now, was a
Yeah, yeah.
colt, that's a male donkey, correct? Not a female. That's what a colt
Sure.
is. And am I wrong? Do y'all know what a colt is? Because I don't want to leave
I
the.
think that's a young male donkey. That's what I'm saying.
It's
I
a
think
male,
yeah,
correct?
yes,
Just
I believe so.
correct or incorrect on male. A colt's a
Oh,
male.
sure. I just assumed it was a young, like, unbroken
Well,
donkey.
that's the foal. That's the
I
foal
love that you
part.
guys are asking a New Yorker about donkeys. That's
Well, I mean, I might need to go look
Hey,
that
I'm
up
from
before I
Alabama.
say
You
this.
think
I'm
I
messing
know
with you.
donkeys pretty
I have
good?
chickens, man. I'm on Long Island. I'm not in the city.
Hey, y'all want me to Google that and come back just for this?
So
Yeah, no, I mean, it really don't matter, man.
I'm gonna Google it. I'll
It's
be right
funny,
back.
though.
so
Yeah.
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
what I would say is that the kingdom that Christ brought in was a kingdom of peace. It wasn't geopolitical. A lot of it is covenantal language, right? So if Jesus did break the power of earthly weapons, not by force, but by establishing a kingdom that's not of this world. So the peace of Christ spreads through gospel and not armies. And again, I want to point to the contrast of what even the religious leaders thought and expected versus what Christ brought. Because if you look at all throughout, Jesus says a lot of things of like, I know you've heard an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, but I'm telling you, love your neighbors as yourself, bless those that persecute you. So what Jesus did, came and really shifted the way they thought and really called them out that, hey, this whole time you haven't been seeing God the way you think you've been seeing God. And I would say, a big barrier to people a lot of times, and rightfully so if it's misunderstood, is looking at how the Old Testament God was positioned. And I guess what I may be coming to you with a little bit of a different take than a lot of the Christians you talk to, is that they didn't see things fully, and Christ himself is the image of the invisible God right before us. So we have to look to him. And that's why I point very heavily to 70 AD and the fall of the temple, because that's when the old covenant really came to a close. And that's what everything was leading towards. It was that temple being torn down, which really to them exemplified a salvation by works, whereas Christ was there to be to lead all to a greater existence, and you can call it salvation through unconditional love, right? So you see that contrast quite a bit unfolding, and without that proper context, it's hard to grasp. But that's my take. I'm more than happy to answer any more questions.
Do you know when the new covenant forms according to the Old Testament?
So back in Jeremiah, because you brought that up before, in Jeremiah 3, it talks about God writing Israel a certificate of divorce. And then later on, he says the new covenant will be when I write my laws, not on stone tablets, but on your hearts. So from my perspective, right, from the cross, that's where unalignment has been defeated by that sacrifice, and then you have a 40-year period, whereas there is a transition from old covenant to new covenant. In Matthew chapter 24, when the disciples are pointing at the temple and Jesus says, "No stone will be left here unturned," and he starts going through, "This is going to be the sign of my coming. This is going to be all the things." Like my brother that was on just a minute ago was talking about a lot of these signs as if they were meant to be, coming in our time. I'm positioning to you that when Jesus pointed and he said, "No stone will be left unturned," and then in Matthew 24:34, when he says, "This generation will not pass until all these things take place," it's amazing that a biblical generation is 40 years. That was about 33 AD. And within that 40 years, in 70 AD, that temple was to the ground. And it was burnt so badly that the Romans, this is all historically documented. It's not a biblical thing. They were separating the rocks just to get to the gold that melted in between the rocks in the temple. So my perspective is the complete fulfillment of that old covenant, where man had to, basically sacrifice and had to go by works, was completely removed by 70 AD, and that was the sign of it, right? That was the day of the Lord. And then ultimately now we live in the fullness of the new covenant, where really we should be, don't always do, using Christ as the example of how we live our lives, which means we would love each other unconditionally. Does that make sense?
It makes sense from a Christian perspective, but not from Jeremiah's.
Yeah, well,
Jeremiah is completely different. So if you read Jeremiah start to finish, it'll take you about 4 hours, four and a half hours maybe to read it. The first 2 hours of reading, at least the first 2 hours, is Jeremiah saying that Israel has been very, very naughty and God is about to punish them severely, right?
Well, yeah, well,
so
that
God's
is...
punishment.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let me go through a minute here.
Please do.
So, the context of Jeremiah and Isaiah and Zechariah, in part anyway, God is really, really mad at the Israelites that they have started worshiping other gods and turned away from his law. That's what Jeremiah says over and over again. They stopped keeping the law. So God punishes them by having his servant in 25 and 27, who is Nebuchadnezzar, sack the city, destroy the city of Jerusalem, and they lead the Israelites away in chains. Like, there's actual pictures of this in history. They're shackled around the neck. They have hooks in their noses and different parts of their body. It's very, very bad. But God is explicitly saying, I am pouring out my wrath and my anger on you for this grievous atrocity you've committed against me, your God, right? So God punishes them. But God spends this whole chapter, several chapters here, around 30 and 31, 32, 33, saying that, yes, I'm punishing you severely, but don't worry. I am about to redeem you. And when I redeem you, I am going to rebuild Jerusalem. And when this happens is when the new covenant is formed according to Jeremiah.
Yep.
The very last part of Jeremiah 31, it says Jerusalem to be enlarged. And it says it'll go from the gate house toward the east. And the very last line says, it shall never again be uprooted or overthrown. And this is talking about a specific time.
Right.
But,
But my positioning to you is that's not a physical. So you are correct. So if you go back, Jeremiah is prophesying about I think it's 600 BC, give or take, after the fall of Jerusalem. And this was notorious
Exilic period, yeah.
for the Israelites. What they would do is they would get comfortable. They would begin seeking, other gods and things like that. Now, again, I come from the position that God's judgment, and I use in air quotes here, God's judgment is really us being left to our own devices in many ways, right? Because we live in a world of cause and effect. So when these prophets
This is talking about a specific event in Jeremiah.
yeah, yeah. So and the Israelites were led into captivity, and ultimately what happened was there was
And
about
Jerusalem was destroyed,
yep,
right? Literally.
Yes,
and it was rebuilt, literally.
well, they rebuilt the temple, particularly Herod around that time he rebuilt the temple, and we know how wicked that dude was.
Well, after the Babylonian exile, though, Cyrus, it says, Isaiah 45 spends a whole chapter explaining that Cyrus is God's arm, and Cyrus is going to be used to crush Babylon and to free and restore Jerusalem.
Yes.
So Jerusalem's literally being destroyed. The Israelites are literally in captivity in Babylon. Jeremiah 31 says, don't wait for your children, Rachel, because I will bring them back from the land of the enemy. He says he's going to break the shackles from their neck. And he says in Isaiah, Cyrus is going to rebuild Jerusalem. So we're talking about literal events that actually happened here.
No, I agree.
So in Isaiah and Jeremiah, when it says, I'm going to redeem you when Jerusalem is rebuilt, it's given a specific time and a literal place. So this is talking about a very specific event here.
Sure.
And it also says when this new covenant is formed, in verse 30 here, it says, but all shall die for their own sins. The teeth of the one who eats sour grapes shall be set on edge. And then it goes into the actual new covenant.
Right. So that's where I would say you're right. There is a fulfillment in the rebuilding, and Cyrus steps up, and allegedly God uses Cyrus to restore them for a time. But we know that they remain in captivity, especially under Rome. So by the time Jesus' time is there,
but that's way later. That's hundreds of years after this, though.
Yeah, but
that's a totally different.
But the new covenant that is speaking of, it can't be what Jeremiah is saying. The new covenant written on the hearts. It can't be because they were still living under the Mosaic covenant and still worshiping in the temple and doing the temple sacrifices, right? So
yeah, that's Jeremiah says when this is fulfilled. The throne of David will never lack a man to sit on the throne, and the Levitic priest will make burnt offerings for all time. So this is literally saying the sacrifices will continue forever.
No, that's where exactly is that? Jeremiah what?
Hold on, we'll read it here. Hold on a second. I think that might be 32, but I think it's in 33. Healing after punishment, the Lord of Jeremiah came for the second time. Yeah, healing after the punishment, like he's healing them. This is what the whole entire New Testament's about. It's saying God is punishing them, but he's going to redeem them. And when he redeems them, the entire world, like Isaiah says over and over, that the Israelites are going to be a light to all the nations. That's what Zechariah says in chapter 8. It says 10 people from every language are going to grab onto the cloak of a Jew, and they say, take us with you because we know your God is with you. That's the whole point of the Old Testament, is that when God redeems the Israelites from Babylon, which it spends hours talking about, that's what's going to happen here is they're going to command peace to all nations. God is going to be glorified through the Israelites. He says, you are my servant, Israel, in whom I will be glorified, which is what happens when he releases them. But
right.
Here, let me read it.
But
it says, the days are
sacrifice.
surely coming.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh,
finish,
it says
please.
the days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In those days, and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. In those days, Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. And this is the name by which it will be called. The Lord is our righteousness. For thus says the Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel, and the Levitic priests shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings and to make grain offerings and to make sacrifices for all time. It's pretty clear, right?
I mean, at first glance, it looks like God's promising that a Davidic king was.
Yeah, this is literally God talking here. This is God himself telling you
But the sacrifice.
that the Levitic priests are going to make sacrifices for all time.
So again, Jeremiah is speaking under the old covenant system, and sacrifices obviously were central.
No,
to...
this is the new. This is after the new covenant. The new covenant began in 31. This is chapter 33. This is continuing that.
So, got it. But the sacrifices stopped after 70 AD when the temple was destroyed, right? So
Well, they stopped way before that, but God says they're going to keep going on forever. And if you ask the Orthodox Jew today, and you say, "Well, this says Jerusalem's
I would
never
say they
again
better
going to be
get to it because
overthrown."
they haven't sacrificed a thing and God knows how long. You know what I'm
Exactly,
saying?
and that's why I'm not a Jew or a Christian.
No, it's extremely problematic. What I'm saying is that when Christ came, immediately what he began to do was establish a new covenant. Even John the Baptist himself, he calls the Pharisees, he says, "You brood of vipers." He goes, "The axe is already at the root of the tree," meaning that what you've built is about to fall. So ultimately, if you go back to Jeremiah 3. Jeremiah makes the declaration that God has written Israel a certificate of divorce. So again, yes, we're talking about hundreds of years of time and some restoration, but they were never really fully restored. As a matter of fact, they got more and more stale. So by the time Christ
Well,
comes,
Jerusalem was restored. Just the prophecies here didn't actually last very long. The prophecies were supposed to be fulfilled because Jerusalem was restored. Cyrus rebuilt it. The temple. He funded all that. He declared Yahweh the official God of Israel, and everything was looking great at that point.
Yeah, and then but then by the time you get to Christ, they're right back to their old ways. Basically doing.
Well, yeah, but Jeremiah don't have anything to do with Christ. This is all about the Babylonian captivity and their release after, because this is the worst punishment they've ever endured.
Yeah,
and it's literally God saying, "They are the ones that are wounded." To God.
But when Jeremiah talks about a covenant that has nothing to do with stone tablets or a building and written on the hearts, he can't be talking about Old Testament Israel. Because we see that obviously the new covenant has nothing to do with that. And I guess what I'm positioning to you is that was the consummation of all that was the destruction of the temple, and there's never been a sacrifice ever since. So the new
Jerusalem. No, they were still making sacrifices in the time of Jesus. It was important to Herod,
yeah, but not after
the temple, that the
70
sacrifices
AD.
continue, and they were going on that time.
Not
gotta
after
stop
70
them. That's
AD.
part of the tribulation, though. That's not part of the coming of the Son of Man.
Well, the tribulation is not a future event. I know my brother that was on here would probably disagree. As a matter of fact, Revelation starts with John on the Isle of Patmos saying, "It is I, John, who is with you in the tribulation." It's talking about. I mean, if you do research on, if you're into history and you research what happened at 70 AD, it's one of the most gruesome.
Oh, I know all about that. Yeah, I've read Josephus before.
Oh yeah, well that's it. Josephus talks about a lot of this. Even so, like a lot of
a big book.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. But so again, I appreciate and I'd like to follow you, and I'd love for you to reciprocate if that's okay. I got to get back to work here.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please.
But I just think
do you got like a couple more minutes?
I mean, when I tell you it's probably 2, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I got.
Well, here, let me read the actual new covenant from Jeremiah real quick.
Go ahead.
It says, "The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to bring them up out of the land of Egypt. Okay. A covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, says the Lord. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my law within them and write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another or say to each other, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least to the greatest, says the Lord. I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sins no more. So when this new covenant is formed, it's when they come out of Babylon, and God is saying He's going to just forgive their sins because that's His promise to them. There's no sacrifices or anything necessary. Like, it never really says that in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, it says if you want forgiveness, repent and turn from your ways, and God will forgive you.
Yeah, yeah. So I would position to you that that's not when they came out of and rebuilt the temple that first time. The only way the full
Well, it has to be. They're literally spending hours talking about this.
No.
Like, it's the whole point.
but he's releasing what's going to happen in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and He does that through Cyrus.
yeah,
That's what it says in Isaiah. It says Cyrus is God's arm, He is going to use to redeem Israel. And all of these prophecies say when God redeems Israel from this captivity is when these prophecies are fulfilled. It's when this Messiah is supposed to come. According to the Old
Cyrus
Testament.
is not the Messiah, because if you read all through the Messianic prophecies,
It
Cyrus-
says He's the Messiah.
Yeah,
Messiah, not the
again-
Messiah. There's no the Messiah in the Old Testament.
well, Cyrus played a key role in that part of it, but again, all of the evidence shows that they were in no way operating under a covenant that was written on their hearts. As a matter of fact, they doubled down, and the Pharisees turned a couple of laws into hundreds upon hundreds of laws, and it was to the point where they're like religious folks do, right? They tell the lepers get away, and that's the difference between Jesus and the chief priests, right? Jesus walked to the leper, walked to the Samaritan who was with 5 men, whereas the Pharisees would say, get the hell out of here. So that again, the fulfillment. And we could agree to disagree on this, but I'm just telling the new covenant was established. The only way the new covenant could be established was not only through Jesus, but it had to be at a point where not only the Jewish people had nothing to do with the bloodline and everything to do with the Spirit. The promises to Abraham were that he would be the father of many, right? That would be more endless than the grains of sand and the stars in the sky. That doesn't happen with just one bloodline of people. So through Christ, all the promises of Abraham are established, and that was the mystery of the gospel that they couldn't understand even into the first century. We're the God's people. How could this be for everybody? But Jesus established that that there was neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave or free, that all were equal under Christ. Again, we could really use that in our mindset today, where that's the establishment of the new covenant was being in the kingdom that was being established through Jesus and then through the early church. And again, I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but the culmination of all of that to show them that, hey, this old covenant is over and done is at the fall of the temple. In Hebrews, it talks in the book of Hebrews, which is in the New Testament, it talks about the old, which is becoming obsolete, will soon disappear. And the reason why it's saying that is because, and you can see the imminency of the language moving closer and closer to 70 AD. The day of the Lord is at hand. All this language is because the old covenant was coming to a close. So now we operate in a new covenant where all are equal, all are under, with Christ. So again, I guess where we disagree is where the actual point of the new covenant started. And I'll just say that, I studied this quite a bit, and it could not have been fully established in that time, because they were still very much operating on temple worship, and that's not. Jesus said, I come to bring a covenant, and it's you're all temples made without human hands. So today we are the temple. We have God within. We don't need stained glass statues and buildings, to have a place for God's presence.
I'm saying God Himself throughout the entire Old Testament, though, never says sacrifices are going to stop. That's a New Testament interpretation on top of the Old, but God Himself never says that.
Well, actually,
Do you know what Messiah means in the Old Testament? Like the word Mashiach? Do you know what that actually
well,
means?
it means basically anointed one, Christ. That's what
Okay,
Christ.
so listen, Isaiah 45, verse 1. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped, to subdue nations before him,
Well,
and to strip
anointed though
kings of
just
their
means
robes, to open doors before him.
anointed means chosen, right? So you could look at Moses as
But it
a
means Messiah.
Well, but you could look at
Yeah,
Moses as
there's
a
lots of
Messiah.
messiahs in the Old
You
Testament.
could
Yeah,
you
Ben
could
David
rush
and Ben
into a
Joseph is
burning
a double messianic prophecy.
you could rush into a burning building and pull people out. You're the Messiah of that building. You know what I'm saying? But
That's
it
what I'm
had
saying. The Old Testament, there is no the Messiah. It says a Messiah will come in the Old Testament, and there's lots of them. Cyrus is the only named Messiah in the whole entire book of Isaiah, but there is other Messiahs that it mentions, like the root of Jesse, but stuff like that.
yeah,
We'll have
but
to
listen,
maybe we could arrange.
God often used what's called types and shadows, of what was to come in the perfect, right? So again, probably deeper than I have time to get into today, but I just want to point something out too. Jeremiah, I have to see where it is, basically releases to the Israelites, like, hey, your forefathers are the ones that chose the sacrificial system. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. That's not what I intended. Again, I go back to what was my first point, was that they operated in non-ideals, but they progressed as they went, and God allowed them kind of to operate in that way. But when Jesus came, he was the perfect reflection of the image of the invisible Father, and he set all those things straight. So he was the final and the only Messiah that could do what the world really needed, not just a political victory, but a spiritual victory, and not just for a nation, for every single man, woman, and child, that would ever exist. So that is the new
Well,
covenant.
everyone that believes, right?
Well, again, you may find me a little bit different than a lot of folks that you speak with. I believe Jesus died for you completely, and my wholehearted belief is that his grace, where sin abounds, grace abounds that much more. So again, Jesus is the savior of all in my camp, and maybe that's where we'll cap it off, and we'll pick it up another day. I'd love to talk with you more, but I got to get back to what I'm doing.
Yeah, maybe we could arrange like a long form talk with each other here, where it's just kind of me and you, not really. We can both do like share a live or something.
Yeah,
you know what
man.
I'm saying?
I think that would.
And
I'm
man,
fairly.
like I would really, if you got like a couple hours sometime, I would really love to sit here and read like not every word of Isaiah, but I've spent hours and hours making notes of the actual context parts of Isaiah. And I think if we actually read these and just a few parts of Jeremiah, like I can show you without a doubt that this isn't talking about Jesus.
Well,
It can't be.
I think we could. They say as iron sharpens iron, so does one sharpen another, right? So I do think that both of us will walk away from that conversation better than when we came. And I'll tell you right at the outset of that I do know that a lot of these prophecies are dealing with Israel in their current time as well. But there are distinctions and foreshadows of what is to come. So again, big conversation for another day. But I'm going to hit follow right now. Feel free to follow me, and let's keep in touch, brother.
I think I did, but I'll make sure after we end this or whatever, I'll get back to you.
Awesome, man.
If
Hey,
I didn't, and I'm gonna shoot you a message, and maybe we can arrange like a long form discussion here on this.
That sounds great, man. I really appreciate the way that you connect and the respectful conversation, bro.
Oh, back at you, Pastor. Back at you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's cool as crap. I finally got to talk to an actual pastor.
Very cool, man. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah, back at you, buddy. Let's see. All right, we got Pastor. If anybody else wants to come up and holler, I'm actually getting pretty close on my time. I got to get on. We still got a minute, though. Yes, Pastor J followed me. I'll have to remember him. Anyway, yeah, the pastor, in my opinion, had pretty typical Christian interpretations of the text. But I mean, you can read parts of this, and it's so clear to Christians that yeah, it can't be right because obviously it didn't happen. That's right, it didn't happen. The point is that it clearly said it was going to happen and when. That's what you got to deal with. So I think like the Christian paradigm in their mind would be when they read something like this, and I know this because I was a Christian up until my late 20s. I'm 41 years old now. When you read something like that and you already have in your head made up that Jesus is the Messiah, you say, well, something's just got to be wrong here. It can't be meaning what it's literally saying, right? Unfortunately, I don't think that is right. So, there's just that. So, anyway, I'll give it just a minute and see if anybody else wants to join up and holler real quick. I've got the puzzle piece I gotta do now. And we'll talk for a few more minutes and then I'm gonna have to jump off here. It is so cool I got to talk to an actual pastor though. Thank you, TikTok. You finally did me a solid, for goodness sakes. But it's really hard to stay on track with a lot of this stuff because you can veer off in so many directions. We never actually even got to finish my argument on Jesus from Luke 19. Maybe we can get back to that one. I gotta learn to stay on track better. Like, I gotta hold people to the track we're on, or else we end up spinning off in 2,000 directions. But I mean, it's all interesting, so it's kind of hard not to, because it's like, well, it says this, well, yeah, it says this, yeah, it says that too, yeah, it says this over here. But anyway, we'll definitely map out a good longer conversation with him maybe, and really do like a deep dive into some of these things, and that would just be fantastic. I didn't know you requested, man, my bad. Hold on. I just now seen that. What up, buddy? Welcome back. Sorry, I didn't see you.
The answer for you.
Yeah, what up?
Yeah, I could tell that, you know, you didn't want me to come back up and all, but it's cool though. But
No, I
the
just brought
answer
you up.
is,
I didn't see you requesting. Let's hear it.
I don't believe that, but it's cool, dude.
Okay.
So, yeah, I thought you might laugh like that. Remember when that koi jumped up when you said that?
Uh-uh.
All right. So in the prophecy, right, in Zechariah 9, it says, "Your king comes to you triumphant and victorious, humble, and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." So a colt is a male donkey. So when we go to Matthew 21 and, you know, Luke 19, go ahead and read what it says.
You mean the part about the donkey?
Yeah, if you will. So I don't have
Yeah,
to
it
turn
says
to it.
when 28, it says, when he went on ahead going up to Jerusalem, it came to pass, when he drew near to Bethpage and Bethany at the mountain called Olive, that he sent 2 disciples, saying, "Go into the village opposite you. There you will enter, and you will find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Loose it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, 'Why are you loosing it?' you shall say, 'Because the Lord has need of it.'" And then it says,
Yeah.
"So those who were sent their way found it, just as he had said to them. But as they were loosening the colt, the owners of it said to them, 'Why are you loosening the colt?' They said, 'The Lord has need of it.' And they brought it back to Jesus. And they threw their clothes on the colt, and Jesus sat on him."
Yeah, him. You see?
So yeah,
So that's a
it's
male.
saying it's a him, a male, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Zechariah 9:9 saying. So let's go to and in Matthew 21, here's what the dude kind of said it, but he didn't have all the. See how I stopped like immediately? I was like, "Whoa, what?" Because if that wasn't right, I would be like, you know, I'd be like, "Oh, this ain't true," because I'm like that too, you know. So I just want to talk about the actual like mathematics, or the actual verbiage or whatever, right?
Yeah.
All right. So it says, "Go into a village ahead of you," in Matthew 21. "Immediately you will find a donkey and a colt with her." You see how it says a donkey and a colt with her?
Yeah.
And the pastor's like, "Oh, well, it was its mother, right?" Something like that.
I mean,
Right.
maybe it might have been, yeah.
or like the donkey had to ride with the mother had to ride, right? And I was like, I had seen a resemblance or something or a depiction of like him riding on one with another one beside, like with it. You know what I mean? All right. So then it says, untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, this is funny. I'm like tripping up. I am. If anyone says this, the Lord needs them, and He will send them immediately. They. This is.
Yeah, damn.
My bad, dude. All right.
There's
all right,
two of them. Listen, verse 6 says the disciples went and did as Jesus directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their
I'll
clothes
get
on
there.
them.
Hold on.
And
I
he
know.
sat on them.
Hold on. This took place. I'm gonna do some word jujitsu up in this place right now.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Matthew's doing some of that.
All right. So this took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet, saying, all right, here we go. All right, tell the daughters of Zion, look, your king is coming to you humble and mounted on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So he rode. So up here in chapter 2, it says, you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone said, he rode the colt. I'm going to just shortcut on it. All right, now back to it. Tell the daughters of Zion, look, your king is coming to you humble and mounted on a donkey. And now it goes, and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. But in Zechariah 9, it says, come to you riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Matthew
So you
added
think,
the word and there.
Yeah, so it made us think like on a donkey and on a colt. So we thought, oh, well, those are the two. That it says a donkey tied and a colt with her. So you think, well, that's the female and the male. But right here in chapter 5, it's saying coming to you on a donkey and on a colt. So that's denoting that it's a male. So if this is a weird example, but it'd be like if you're riding a human, this is just weird, dude. But I'm just saying, I could say it as a horse, but I don't know the term for a male horse. But it'd just be like you're riding on a human. So it'd be like
a mare, I guess,
coming to you. I don't know. Let me just coming to you, mounted on a human, and on a male human. At that, does that make sense?
Well, it
says,
does, but you still got to deal with verse 7.
I'll get there. Yeah. On a donkey and on a colt. So it's basically on a donkey and on a male donkey at that. And the foal of a donkey. You see, and it even says, and up here it says, donkey tied and a colt with her. Or where does it say the foal? Or it says a colt with her, and a colt is a foal, like a young donkey, like he was saying under 4. So then it says the disciples went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them, and he sat on them. So on them, now take it what you want, but it could very well mean he sat, them could be their cloaks. It doesn't mean he sat on all their cloaks. See, the prophecy's only
what it
saying...
seems to be suggesting to me here.
So the prophecy's only saying that he sat on a donkey that was a male. And when it goes, well, he rode both of them, well, it could be saying and put their cloaks on them. That's both the male and the colt and its mom. But when it says, and he sat on them, it could mean he sat on half of their cloaks.
No, it doesn't say
like
that,
technically. No, it could. You could interpret. It very well could be saying that, because if you were like, we laid our cloaks on 2 horses, and he sat on them. He wouldn't. He could only sit on 50% of the cloaks, and you could say them. But on the other them part, yeah, it was pretty weird. I just gave you that to show you, like, that could be what it means.
Oh yeah, and
That make
I've
any
heard
sense,
that
dude?
before, but I mean the literal words are they put cloaks on them and he sat on them. So I mean it's literally saying that he's sitting on them cloaks and stuff like that. But the
Well,
important
that's how the
distinction here is
parables
that
are in the same book. You would look at it one way, then you go, "Oh crap!" So that's what. So on them, and they put their cloaks on them, and he sat on them.
right. Well, the important distinction is that in Zechariah there's only one animal. It's referring to a donkey, but it's saying it's a
Yeah, that's
colt,
what I'm saying.
foal
So
of a
the
donkey.
animal is
So
still
there's
there.
two animals here,
Yeah, there
and in
is.
Luke there's only one animal.
So it was fulfilled.
Oh,
All
no,
he
no,
has.
no. He
So
didn't
back
fulfill
to
the prophecy.
Zechariah, right? Rejoice, let your king comes to you triumph and victorious and humble, riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey, right? Right here, it goes on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey.
Right, and the word "and" is in the actual prophecy.
And like you were saying in Isaiah, when he says the bruised reed part, it also does that when he fulfills that one. It adds like that could be a different interpretation too. But that's the only part you can really pick apart right there. But technically, what I was saying stands, like, because it doesn't even say he rides on the female donkey in 21. It just I picked it apart where, so I'll do that one more time if you want me to. Probably don't want me to,
Yeah, go
but
for it. Go for it. I got
immediately
that.
you'll find a donkey tied. So we know what everything else says, right? So immediately you'll find a donkey tied, and this is Jesus talking, so it's going to be tricky in the first part, the red letters. Immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Unite them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this: the Lord needs them, and he will send them immediately. This took place to fulfill what has been spoken through the prophet, saying, and now, just because they brought two doesn't mean the prophecy of one coming isn't fulfilled. But then saying, tell the daughter Zion, look, your king is coming to you humble and mounted on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So
Yeah.
it could mean like on a donkey and on a male donkey at that. That could be what it's saying, like, because in 9, if they literally translated it, it'd be riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So if it was, look, your king's coming to your humble and mounted on a donkey, it doesn't even say riding. It says mounted at this point.
Well, I mean, that's just different. Riding and mounted on a donkey is kind of the same thing. But I think you're missing
But
a
he
real
says
important
this
part of
took
that
place to
prophecy there, too. It says, your king comes to you. Was Jesus a king?
That's what I'm saying. It was in the tenses of it is he is a king. They just don't know it. Like, he's currently not the king, but he is a king.
Well, the prophecy says, a king will come to you, humble and victorious, riding on a donkey.
That's what I'm saying. He is, but they didn't
If
know
he's
it.
not a king, then he didn't fulfill the prophecy.
Well, that goes back to the
It's
kingdom
kind of
thing.
weird that he would be a king of Jerusalem and nobody seems to know that he was the king. Herod was the king at the time.
But it'd be like
son
a
at the
future.
time, actually.
Well, it's saying like a future king, obviously, that you don't know is a king yet. Like, like.
Well, not in the actual prophecy, not in Zechariah. This is just talking about your king is going to enter Jerusalem on a donkey, and he
No,
will
I'm
cut
saying
off
that's
the
why
war.
that's why it adds the and. That's why it adds that and to it in the fulfillment part.
You mean in Matthew?
Yeah, in Matthew, when it's like, tell them.
Well, yeah, but you only got a point in Matthew though. Luke don't say none of that. So that
Well, Luke
would
is
mean
just
Luke
saying-
is getting
Luke
it
doesn't-
wrong if you're going with those interpretations.
No, Luke doesn't quote. Does Luke quote Zechariah?
Yeah, they don't say it's a fulfilled prophecy. Or
But
wait,
you got what I
no.
was saying right there, right? Like a new info on that, a little bit,
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I mean, I'm still disagreeing with the words. I think Matthew mistakenly
Yeah,
put the
yeah,
word and in there. There's
I
only
would
supposed to
too
be
if I
one
was
animal. But
So
yeah, I don't see how you can get around that. But yeah, Luke don't say
no, I
that
mean
he's
No, I'm saying you
necessarily.
can't. I showed you how you could, but I'm saying you probably don't agree with. Like you could. Did you see how you technically could get around that?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying it don't make sense to the words. Like
Like when you look at the even
the
the
main point
quoted.
is the difference in the amount of animals there. Like, I mean, you can make
No,
sense
not
of it
the
by
no no
saying,
no. It's the difference in the gender. That's where it
well,
is.
I
Because
mean,
if you were, because it says and on a colt, it says on a donkey and on a colt to denote that it was the male donkey, not the female.
oh,
When it
well,
just
I
said
mean, yeah,
above
but
that
a
it was the
donkey can
that there
also
were
be a
two.
male. A donkey's a donkey. It's not making a
No, but a
distinguish
colt can't be a
of gender.
female.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
but
A
I'm
colt
saying that
can't
don't
be.
really make a difference though. If you're
Well,
just
the
saying a
prophecy
donkey, it's
says a
just
male, and then above it says, well, he had two donkeys. But then right here it denotes, while it's quoting the prophecy, that it is a male that he was on in current time, like in current time. And then it says they brought to the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them, and he sat on. So then it goes back to two of them, and the koi just jumped again, and that is what it says.
yeah. I heard it that time.
It's weird, dude. But I'm just you got me for a sec. I was like, well, let me. But that's always what happens to me, you know. But
You probably never came up on that before or thought about it, and it's kind of like what?
yeah, but somebody's told me about like the you ever heard like the basketful parable,
I'm sure
or
I have.
like how fed like 5,000, and they had like when they fed less people, they had more basketfuls or something. That one's very complex.
Yeah,
That
there's a
one's
lot of
very
complex
complex.
stuff in here. But
But
yeah, right.
what?
The part in Luke when I'm talking about, he starts to tell that parable there, and he's saying he's about to enter Jerusalem as a king, and in that parable, Jesus is saying, "If anybody want to accept me as king, bring them before me and have them slaughtered in my presence." It's not very Jesus-y sounding,
Can you read
but
the
that's
whole
what he's
Luke
talking
one?
about.
Can you read the Luke one to me? Because I got my fingers in this. I can't get to that one. Is what
Which
verse
part?
is it at? What chapter and verse is the Luke one?
Well, I was talking about Luke 19 as a whole, like
Luke
where it
19.
starts.
I got it. Or which verse is it? Because I want to see that one too
Uh,
now.
if you, well, it's the parable of the 10 minas. 10 minas.
10 minas. Let me see
Yeah,
there.
just
This
yeah, just what version of the Bible are you reading?
NRSV. It's just like a. It's
Oh,
not,
perfect.
but
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good one.
and then I could look at Matthew different versions, but I'm sure King James would probably be the same thing. Like it would have and instead of not. But what? I wanted to read the Luke one.
Yeah,
What
that's
verse?
the one I'm talking about. Is called the parable of 10 minas. It starts in verse 11 and it ends in verse 27. But a rundown of that parable is that this guy who's representing Jesus is about to go to a foreign land to accept some sort of kingship as a royal. And before he leaves, he gives 3 slaves some money, and he says, "Turn my money into more money." So he comes back, and 2 of the slaves have made him money. He says, "Great for y'all." And one of them says, "You're a hard man who never reaps what you sow, so I was scared and I just saved your money. I didn't invest it." And he basically rebukes him. And it ends with him saying, "But as for these enemies of mine who do not want me to rule over them, bring them here and slaughter them in my presence." And then the very next line is Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem as a king. So, like, he's literally saying,
Yeah, but
"I'm
that's
about
not.
to enter Jerusalem and be a king. And if somebody don't like this, we're going to bring them before me and unalive them right here in my presence."
So it says, "Go into the village ahead of you." Yeah, that's about. I don't want to get into what I think that one's about because I think that the rapture and the tribulation haven't happened. So I'll just want to read about the donkeys real, like, stay on that. Can I read the donkey part real fast in the next
Yeah, yeah.
part? Go
Yeah,
into the village
28,
ahead of you.
29.
go into and find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Now, the colt's never been ridden. I thought that was, and that would make sense why it would need its mother. Untie it and bring it here. No, if a colt's never been ridden, like the other guy came in initially and said, because I was like, what's he talking about? But it could need its mother because it'd be a wild but I mean, Jesus riding on. I mean, shoot, he's a miracle worker anyway. And if anyone asks you, why are you untying it, just say, all right, so those who were sent departed and found them as they were untying the colt. Its owner asked them, why are you untying the colt? They said, the Lord needs it. Then they brought it to Jesus, and after throwing their cloaks on the colt, they set Jesus on it. Oh, so now it goes to cloaks. Well, they could have thrown their cloaks on the mom, and someone else could have rode the mom. But I doubt that. But they could have still thrown. But they still could have thrown their cloaks. But they could have thrown their cloaks. Like if you go, there were 2 seats. I threw 4 blankets on the seats. I threw 4 blankets on the 2 seats, 2 each. And then it goes, and like you sat in the passenger seat, so you sat on them because there was multiple cloaks on the seat you sat in. Because the inanimate objects are like that, denoting. If that makes any sense. Like,
well, it does,
if you throw 2...
You're like, I feel like you're just trying to explain your way out of it, but I mean, the key.
No, I'm not explaining my way out of it. Technically, I'm explaining my way into it more.
Yeah, but I'm saying they don't say none of this stuff.
No, it does, because it says that they threw. It says they threw their cloaks on them, the 2 donkeys, and then it says cloaks. So on both donkeys there was multiple cloaks, and then it says he sat on them. So you could say he sat on both donkeys somehow, but that don't make sense. So I'm saying it makes more sense that he sat on multiple cloaks.
Well, you can put multiple cloaks on a donkey, and he can sit on one donkey and multiple cloaks.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But it doesn't.
And even on the other donkey, you could have multiple
Luke
cloaks.
says he sat on it, and in Matthew it says he sat on them.
So in Luke it says, let's see, the untying, throwing their cloaks on their cloaks on the colt. They set Jesus on it, the colt. Like the last thing it says is the colt. They set Jesus on it. It says they threw their cloaks. So now, if it was saying he sat on the cloaks in Luke, it would say that Jesus sat on. So it couldn't say. By saying it has to mean the colt in Luke.
Yeah.
So it does fulfill the prophecy.
Well, he rides a donkey, yeah.
But the prophecy is that the donkey is a colt.
Well, I mean, you could say he fulfills the prophecy in both of them, as long as he's riding a donkey into Jerusalem. But that's literally the only part of that prophecy he does fulfill is riding a donkey, which is coincidentally the part anybody can do.
Yeah, so did I clear that up? That if you want to get, like, I got really, really technical right there. And
I think you have to get technical to get down to the words.
But, like, did that make any sense? Because I'm still sitting here like, I don't know how that makes sense, but I kind of do now. Because when you first said it, I was like, this don't make sense.
Well, I see where you're trying to get at, but I mean, I'm still with the actual words and what each different one is saying. Like,
yeah, you still disbelieve it that the prophecy was fulfilled, correct?
No, I'm saying I do think he fulfilled the part that we're talking about, riding the donkey. Either way, which way you want to look at it, whether it was one donkey or 2, or males or females, he rode the donkey into Jerusalem. So he did.
I'm saying he never rode the female donkey though. When it says them.
Well, it says he sat on them. That's inferring that he sat on both of them at the same time.
Well, I think it means he sat on more than one cloak at the same time.
Well, it says on them. It's referring to the animals. Though. It says,
I think it's referring to the cloaks, not the two separate animals.
no, it says they put their cloaks on them and sat Jesus on them.
Yeah, he sat on part of the cloaks. Like if I'm like, there's two seats. If I'm like, there's two seats, there's the passenger seat and the driver's seat. We sat our cloaks on them, and you sat in the passenger seat, so you sat on them. You just didn't sit on all of them.
Yeah, I think we were trying to hear that. I just don't think.
Yeah, so I'm just saying he didn't sit on the female. It goes to that. And then the last, can I just, so I said that, right? Did you get, I said it, right? Or I said it. So can I just drop that part now about the donkey?
Yeah.
When y'all talk about the Messiah, can I share something with you? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, real quick. I got to go to work here in a minute, though.
All right,
Unfortunately, I'm
cool.
poor and I got to work for a living.
I can't believe it always happens to me like that when I think that, but I think it's gonna be well, so Messiah, like he was saying, it could be anyone saving you, but the Christ means anointed one, right? So
That's what Messiah means.
Messiah actually means savior. Christ denotes it even more as the savior.
No, you're wrong. Messiah means the anointed one. Anointed means oil smearing.
No, you could say my Messiah saved me from the burning fire, but my Christ, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Anyways,
I'm saying
whatever,
the definition
whatever.
of Messiah doesn't mean a savior. It means an anointed one, which were kings and priests in the Old Testament.
I thought Christ meant anointed one.
No, Christ just means Christos or whatever. He's the Christ. Like
Yeah, that means the
It's a
anointed
title.
one. Anyways, right, whatever. So, but I want to share about anointed, right? That's what I want to share about. Can I share that real fast before you go? All right.
Yeah.
I want to share with you that what anointment means. He was saying it's not about his father, the bloodline. It actually is, because the snake in the garden, now we got venom in our blood, so we need like an anti-venom. But the Jesus didn't have an earthly father, so when you drink his blood, his spirit, his father, his bloodline comes from the father, your bloodline, right?
Yeah.
His father was a spirit, so how you drink his blood? Well, it's like spiritual somehow. I don't know that yet, so I'm done talking about that part. All right. But anointment, it means an ointment. That's how you spell an ointment. Anointment. Like Neosporin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It means an ointment. That's how you spell it. It don't even have two N's, so it's like an anti-venom. So that's that. Yeah, I just want to share that.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
that's a neat
learned
little way to
that.
say that out.
Yeah, that's what when you hear anointed, it means they got an ointment to their sin, or the venom, the anti-venom, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. Anointed means oil smearing, basically, or ointments or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the tense, or it's like anointed means anoint. Like the anointed one has an ointment, has the anointment, or so it would be the an ointment, but that don't really make sense in English. But it's in English it literally says an ointment, like it's the combined words. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is I believe the rapture is going to come in about 5 years, which you can call me crazy on that. Like I welcome people call me, crazy on this part. And I think that I don't think aliens are real. I think God and fallen angels and angels are real. And you can entertain angels unaware, and you can also entertain fallen angels. So you could entertain it. You think it's an alien, that would mean you're entertaining a fallen angel unaware, in my opinion. And I think a UFO will come and fly over the Vatican and the Mayan temples in the future, and there'll be a great deception written by Paul. So I just wanted to share that before I go. So if you see that, remember what I said on that part. So maybe that would make you believe or whatever, you know. If not, you know, so be it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if I say an actual prophecy that I know is a prophecy, I'll be pretty compelled, I would think.
Well, that would fall
But I
under
mean-
the Great Deception, but I'm giving you more details about the Great Deception. So there'll be a UFO fly over the Vatican and the Mayan temples. And it won't be aliens.
That's part of the-
One might come out and you'd be like, that's an alien. But it's really a fallen angel. That's my...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to. Yeah, that's weird. That one, that's kind of whatever. But it would. I just wanted to share that part, and but man, that was a good deep
I'll have to
thought.
have you back up sometime, and we'll do a deep dive into like Matthew chapter 24 on all that stuff.
Yeah, you're like my friend. I get deja vu a lot, but you're also like my friend. He looks at the Bible with that eye like you got. Like I in my opinion, I think that you'll be. I think that you're onto something, you know, because you got what you know, I got what I know, but what you know is a lot different than what I know because you looked at that and found all that. So you're pretty versed and smart. So
Well, I can
All
tell
you
you my
need's that-
method. It's real easy. So there's only one rule: don't take away or add to the actual information that the words in the text are giving you. One main rule. So
Well,
you've
you
heard
see,
the
I
story
didn't take
Cinderella,
away-
right?
but I didn't take away or add to it, technically. Like I didn't add a
Well-
word or take away a word. I just said that they.
You did.
But you could say like the way they quoted it wrong, but they quoted Isaiah wrong. But it's almost like something hard. Like I don't know if it's a misinterpretation or a I don't know, like the and instead of the on and mounted instead of riding. Like I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to add and take away though.
Well, I just do that, and I look at it kind of like I evaluate a story like, say, Cinderella. So in Cinderella, the fairy godmother cast a spell on Cinderella, and so she's going to turn into a princess. So at midnight, the entire spell is going to disappear, right? So she dances the night away, and then notices and finds all my stuff and starts running and runs out of one of her shoes, right? So at midnight, the spell disappears. Like her dress goes away, the fairies turn back into a pumpkin and stuff. But oddly enough, even though the spell says everything is going to disappear at midnight, with one shoe for some reason hung around. So, doing a critical evaluation of what the story is saying, you've got a problem here. Because the spell says everything's going to vanish at midnight. But there's this one shoe left for some reason. So to me, that's an inaccuracy in the story.
Yeah, you're looking at it good and deep and all. But did I give you any more even more critical look at it? Because you, by saying like the cloaks could mean like he sat
that's
on
actually
them,
pretty
but
good.
not
I mean,
all of them.
That's actually pretty good, man. I'll give it to you there. That's the best argument
Thanks.
I've heard for it.
Well, I mean, you're pretty
Sure.
smart because other people ain't gonna even they. But you know, I guess God does His
Well,
thing.
I mean, there's a lot of Christians have had 2,000 years to sit around and come up with apologetics about these verses and the problems with them. You know what I mean? They get explained like that.
Well, like
But,
the other dude, in my opinion, was right. It's just y'all are, like I thought he was 90%, and you were right, like too. But I don't think that he. Then he was like, "Well, I don't think I think the tribulation is going to happen in the future." So it's just like, you know, I'm just going through time too. So whatever. I mean,
I hear you, man. Like, I would love,
So-
maybe I could bring you and him back up. We'll just read Matthew 24. It tells you exactly what the tribulation is supposed to be and the coming of the Son of Man. And
I
like,
think
like I
Muhammad
said-
bin Salam is the Antichrist, dude.
Oh, it might be. Well, the Antichrist is a man, but the Antichrist in Revelation is Nero, though. Emperor Nero.
Well, I think it's talking in vertical integration to where it's like meaning two things at once.
Well, it's just a Greek numerical translation. It says neuron Kaiser in Greek.
Oh yeah, but a lot of ways I do it is if anything on the left or right, or on the outskirts or on the Bible, I go to the word of Jesus, and his parables kind of like are keys to a lot of stuff. That's what I do. I read the parables, or the parables. There's tons of stuff like Zechariah you're reading and Zephaniah. So this stuff is like talking about, in my opinion, the 1,000-year reign. I think Jesus is God because I think he comes back and lives for 1,000 years and lives to be 1,033. And when they ate from the tree, it says you'll not live a day past. After you eat from this tree, you won't live a day. Like it says a day. And you'd be like, well, there's another one. But to me, a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years a day. So no man has lived 1,000 years. So I think Jesus, the first one to rise, will be the first one to live for 1,000 years. And he'll be 1,033.
God's immortal. He should be alive for way longer than 1,000 years.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying as and then he ushers it into eternity. He says he passes in Daniel 12 or 9, it says he passes the kingdom, which I started talking about the kingdom as a city. It says he passes the kingdom over to God, the Ancient One of Days. And I don't know how you pass a kingdom over like a football. So I see that as through time. So he ages into God. And then once it gets that point, I don't know, because that's when he lets Satan back out, all this other stuff. And I mean, I only know in part, but the kingdom is like, to me, it's like a lot, but I mean, I think he'll live for 1,033 years, and I want to be able to enter into that city, the New Jerusalem.
I guess that's the point, ain't it? The payoff.
Yeah. Well, that's the closest thing I got.
The video I made yesterday, where I was reading from Ecclesiastes. Like, whoever wrote Ecclesiastes, he did not think there was an afterlife. He says we're the exact same as animals.
Oh, I know.
We're the exact same place when we die.
I'll give you a thing on that too, because Jesus says, "Give freely as freely it was given to you." Solomon wrote that, obviously. I know you know that, but I don't know if you know that. But Solomon is the wisest person ever. Here's something cool about Ecclesiastes. You can read it verse for verse backwards as you can forwards. And it's symmetric.
I've never thought about that, but I can actually kind of picture that because it uses the same words over and over and over and over and over.
Well, it starts off with everything's
vanity, all is vanity. I mean,
meaningless, meaningless. And at the end it goes meaningless, meaningless. It means, so I'll try to get to it real fast. It's really cool. It's that part, that one's pretty cool, but you got to use your imagination. You got to do a little bit of improvising when you're, but I think he did that. Man, where's Ecclesiastes in my Bible? Dang, I'm like, I guess it just got
in my head. I always think it's New Testament.
I got this old Bible where half the pages are like messed up.
Oh well, don't use the NRSV. That's a good one. The King James is trash. It's an awful translation. That should be thrown in the garbage.
Yeah, that's why I'm using the NRSV. Damn, where's but yeah. Yeah, anyway, Ecclesiastes.
I gotta let you go, man. But throw me a follow and stuff, and we'll talk again sometime. I don't mind bringing you up.
I might, but that was good what we said today. I'll remember this probably forever.
Yeah, I love talking about this kind of stuff, man. I wish I could do it as a living, especially with a preacher there. Like, to me, it's crazy.
I don't value people any different. When that guy was saying we're all under Jesus, what that means is that, I think he said something about under Christ, right? We're all the same. That means that under, like legitimately under. Like, we're not like that. We're all underneath him. Everyone's basically stupid, Like, yeah, we're smarter than some people, but like compared to him, we're like we're all the same,
Compared to Jesus, you mean?
Yeah. Like when it says under him, we're all one.
Anything special personally?
Well, that's what.
I can think
Yeah.
of-
When he was saying under.
actual rulers in history.
No, I'm just saying when he was saying under, I'm saying like it's saying that we're all the same under him. It means like literally he's better. That's what the thing. Can I say the first Ecclesiastes one that I was talking about real quick?
Yeah, go for it, dog.
So I'm reading this backwards. I'm at Ecclesiastes 12:14. It says, "For God will bring every." So I'm starting at 14, then I'm going up to 13, then up to 12. "For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep His commandments, for that is the whole duty of everyone. Of anything beyond these, my child, beware of making many books. There is no end, and much study is weariness of the flesh. The sayings of the wise are like goads, and the nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings that are given by one shepherd. The teacher sought to find pleasuring words, and he wrote words of truth plainly. Besides being wise, the teacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher, all is vanities." This is backwards.
Ecclesiastes is crazy. It is crazy.
And the dust returns. It's crazy if you read it backwards. It's really crazy, but yeah, I'll let you go. Thanks for letting me talk, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. But
see you, dude.
We'll catch you later, man. Shoot me a follow or whatever. I'll go live. I'm gonna try to go live all the time, more and more as I can.
I might. I'm not trying to be on here too much, but I got on here today. But your house looks nice, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Your pond looks sick.
My pond back there.
I like that.
It's my back porch.
Yeah, man.
My bonsai's there.
I'm in Carolina, but I'll see you, man. Have a good week. See you, man.
Have a good, buddy. Take it easy. All right, guys, we're jumping off because I'm poor and have to work and stuff. It's also Taco Tuesday down at the Don Alejo with the best 99-cent tacos anybody ever had. Anyway, I think I'm going to try to come back this afternoon. So later, guys. Have a good one.